uh, will never go away. It'll always be with me. And I think I saw somewhere the sadness is a reminder of how much he means to me. Just feel like, I did something right in life with him.
This ain't just some tragic headline. This is heartbreak wrapped in mystery and smothered in silence. Malcolm Jamal Warner, the man millions grew up watching, the father who lived for making memories with his little girl, gone. Just like that, a proud dad on what should have been a peaceful getaway in Costa Rica, now the subject of whispers that are getting louder by the hour. And the scariest part, nobody's giving straight answers. His last video still haunts people. He's laughing, chilling, a flower tucked behind his ear, celebrating his daughter's birthday like life couldn't touch him. He even says, "There's always a reason to smile." Hours later, that smile was gone forever. The official story? They claim he died a hero, trying to save his daughter from drowning. But then the twist hit. Authorities confirmed she wasn't even in the water. From day one, the details never matched. Reports kept shifting, and the internet went wild. Then came the bombshell. His wife allegedly moved millions of dollars in assets into her name within 24 hours of his death. That's not grief. That's game planning. And if that wasn't enough, word is she refused to let their daughter even say goodbye to her father. Then out of nowhere, Regina King breaks her silence. The woman he once loved, the one he famously walked away from on Valentine's Day. She didn't owe the public a single word. But when she spoke, calm, polished, but you could feel the fire underneath. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was unfinished business, and the heat is still rising. And don't forget, Regina's not just any ex. She's a mother who's already lived through the nightmare of losing her only son. And now, she's stepping into this storm just as whispers are flipping into full-blown theories. People are saying Malcolm was holding on to something big, something that had powerful people nervous, something buried deep in what's now being called the piles. And that flips the whole question. This isn't just about how he died, it's about why and exactly who wanted him gone. Strap in, because this ride is far from over. They say the ocean never lies, but on those Costa Rican shores, where the waves supposedly claim Malcolm Jamal Warner's life, the truth feels like it's sinking faster than his body ever could. A father, a legend, a man dripping with wisdom and light, gone in the middle of a family beach trip with his 8-year-old daughter. The headlines called it a tragic accident, but when you look closer, it feels like someone made sure that voice got shut down before it could speak. Just hours before his death, Malcolm dropped a video. Nothing flashy, just pure raw joy. A flower tucked in his hair from his daughter's birthday, laughter in his voice, and a line that chills you now. There's always a reason to smile. That was the last time the world saw it. Then came the official story. He drowned after getting caught in a rip current. But here's the kicker. They admitted his daughter wasn't even in the water, and people who were actually there, they're saying a whole different story.
You long believed to be true, but realized wasn't.
Well, as one of the main opponents of the Illuminati, I always wanted to know what information they had that we didn't.
Now we finally have an update on the drowning death of Malcolm Jamal Warner. Now, according to ABC7, they stated that Malcolm Jamal Warner had drowned while he was on vacation in Costa Rica. Now, the article goes on to say that Warner had drowned off the coast of Costa Rica on Sunday.
Life, it's fragile, and in the blink of an eye,
you never know.
You never know. So speaking of legacy, what do you hope that your legacy is going to be?
There is part of me that I will be able to leave this earth, knowing and people knowing that I was a good person. I spent, so much of the early part of my life listening to being celebrated on one hand, but paying way too much attention to the naysayers.
These are the first things we saw when we pulled up to the beach. Signs in Spanish and English warning people about potentially hazardous conditions. This sign even giving a roadmap for how to escape a rip current.
And theirs doesn't end with an accident. Witnesses swear they saw it. Malcolm in the water, battling that current with everything in him, fighting to save his daughter. A final act of pure love. But the agency running the case, OIJ, kept pushing their version, claiming the girl was never in danger. So now everyone's asking, why the lies? Why the switch up? And if, as one police chief admitted, they weren't even there when it happened, then who exactly are they protecting? Except here's the twist. That same police chief later doubled back saying he was there. He watched it unfold. He even spoke to the Red Cross himself, and they treated Malcolm's daughter right there on the sand. His words were clear. Malcolm ran into that ocean for her. He fought that rip current with everything he had. That wasn't just a drowning. That was a father's last stand, a goodbye nobody was ready for. But this tragedy didn't get buried with the tide. It followed the scent of money, silence, and a woman now facing serious side eyes. Less than 24 hours after Malcolm's death, his wife allegedly called up a lawyer, not to grieve, not to plan a memorial, not to hold their daughter, but to allegedly flip the beneficiary on his $12 million estate, putting it all under her name. And it doesn't end there. She allegedly blocked their daughter from saying a final goodbye, robbed her of that last moment of peace. Then came the most chilling move of all. She reportedly demanded no autopsy, no questions, no investigation, just silence, and a quick close to a story that's only getting louder, but only on her terms. So why move that fast? Why slam the lid shut before anyone can even blink? This ain't just grief. This got shady stamped all over it. It feels like fear, like someone rushing to lock every door before the truth can slip through the cracks. And trust me, the internet is wide awake. Fans, friends, even complete strangers are all asking the same loaded question. What are they hiding? Then, out of nowhere, a name from deep in the past steps back into the frame, Regina King, a name that still hits different, a memory, a love story that once had the whole culture rooting for them. Two Black Hollywood powerhouses finally together, until one day, out of the blue, he walked away on Valentine's Day. No fight, no warning, no goodbye. Regina once told it straight, I don't have a favorite Valentine's memory. Someone broke up with me on Valentine's Day. And that someone? Malcolm. He sent her flowers after, with a note saying, I still love you. She tossed them in the trash. But heartbreak like that doesn't stop at flowers. It cuts deeper. Not long after, Regina's whole world collapsed. Her only son, her light, her everything, took his own life. That's the kind of loss no mother should ever carry. And yet, when she sat down for her first interview after losing him, she didn't lash out. She didn't crumble. She spoke with raw love, with heartbreak so heavy you could feel it through the screen, and with a strength that didn't even seem human. Grief is love with no place to go, she once said. And now, with Malcolm gone, those words cut deeper than ever. So when Regina finally broke her silence after his death, the whole world stopped to listen. She posted a single photo, Malcolm on his motorcycle, with a caption that read, some people leave a lasting imprint, not just for who they were, but for the energy they carried. No shade, no drama, just pain, raw and unfiltered. Then came another post, Ride in Power. She didn't drag him. She didn't reopen old wounds. She simply mourned the man she once gave her heart to. And in that quiet, her voice was somehow louder than any headline. Because behind that tribute, there's a story. One dripping with love, loss, and questions that never got answered. Why did Malcolm vanish from her life so suddenly? How does a love that strong turn ice cold with no warning, no reason, no closure? Some say he changed, others say something scared him. But what if it wasn't fear of love at all? What if it was fear of something much bigger? In the weeks before his death, whispers started swirling. Malcolm was ready to expose something major. Real receipts, real proof. Something insiders are now calling the piles. He was planning to make it public. But before he could, the ocean claimed him. Sure, some will chalk it up to coincidence. But if you've been paying attention, it fits a pattern. Mysterious deaths, sealed files, voices that suddenly go silent. So we have to ask, was Malcolm silenced? Was the truth buried under waves and locked in paperwork? Or was this a warning to anyone else thinking of speaking up? Stay quiet, or this could be you. We don't have all the answers, not yet, but here's what we do know. A man who woke up smiling was gone by sunset. A little girl who once tucked a flower in her dad's hair now holds nothing but memories. A wife allegedly moved lightning fast, not to grieve, but to lock down millions. And from the shadows, Regina King stood tall, speaking with nothing but grace, while the rest of us sat in a pain that refuses to loosen its grip. And here's the harshest truth. We may never get the whole story, because when powerful people want something buried, it doesn't just disappear. It sinks, quiet, deep, no splash, no trace. But sometimes, the ocean spits it back, And if you listen close, really close, you'll hear the whispers. Whispers begging for justice, calling the name of a man who should still be here. Malcolm Jamal Warner, a father, an actor, a fighter, taken too soon but not erased, not today, not ever. They thought the world would move on like nothing happened. But the ocean that pulled him under couldn't wash away the contradictions, the hush-hush moves, the shadows creeping in around his story. One day, he was here, laughing, living, being a dad. The next, gone. And in the wreckage, we're left with questions so sharp they cut, because it's always the silence that tells the real story. Costa Rican officials put out a clean, polished statement. Malcolm was standing at the shoreline, and his daughter, they claimed she wasn't even in the water. He entered the sea with a friend. The current was strong, he drowned. End of story. At least that's the official version. But witnesses, they're telling a whole different story. One officer who was actually there says Malcolm wasn't just out for a swim. He was fighting to save his daughter. Paramedics treated her right there on the sand. According to him, they were both swept into the current and people rushed in with boards trying to pull them back. So why was that part erased? Why was the version where his daughter was in danger never made public? Because when you paint someone as a hero, it changes everything. A man who dies saving his child becomes a martyr, and martyrs get remembered. But if you strip that away and call it just a drowning, it's easy to sweep under the rug. No messy questions, no spotlight, just a clean headline, a quick goodbye, exactly how someone wanted it. And then came the next move, the push to cremate his body. Fast, too fast, no autopsy, no second look. Just pack him up and ship him home. Quiet, cold, and final. And who allegedly pushed for it? The same woman who had just taken control of his $12 million in property, accounts, and investments. His wife allegedly made sure it all happened. No press frenzy, no public tears, no emotional collapse. Just quiet power plays and a paper trail that's starting to speak louder than she ever has. Fans were stunned. This wasn't just any celebrity, this was Theo Huxtable. People didn't just watch him on TV, they grew up with him. He was part of their story, their memories, their lives. And the way he vanished, the way his legacy was being handled, it felt less like mourning and more like a cold transaction. And somewhere in the shadows, Regina King was watching, the woman who once loved him, the woman who already knew what it meant to lose everything and still rise. She didn't owe him a thing, not a post, not a word, but she still spoke. Her grief wasn't loud, it was piercing, soft, powerful, and dripping with emotion. But behind that sadness, there's been a fire burning for years, because most people have no clue what really went down between Regina and Malcolm. They were the quiet power couple. Two icons from different corners of Black Hollywood finally linking up. It felt real. It felt right, like destiny. Until one day, it didn't. No warning, no clue, just silence. Regina never saw it coming. One minute, they were building a future. The next, she was told to pack her things and leave the home she shared with Malcolm and her son on Valentine's Day. No explanation, no closure, just gone. Everything they had disappeared like it never existed. But that heartbreak, that was only the beginning. Years later, Regina would face a loss no parent should ever endure. She had to bury her only son. That kind of pain doesn't just hurt, it hollows you out. It takes pieces of you you'll never get back. When Regina spoke about him, she said something that now cuts like glass. Sometimes his absence is really loud. And now that same silence echoes with Malcolm's name. A different kind of loss, but the same haunting stillness. But maybe, just maybe, Regina saw something the rest of us missed. Maybe her quiet tribute wasn't just grief, maybe it was suspicion. A subtle signal that something felt off. And she wasn't alone. The internet lit up like wildfire. Reddit threads blew up. Twitter flooded with questions. Why weren't there lifeguards on that beach? Why were local rescue teams reportedly redirected to other areas that same day? And why did the agency in charge move so fast to close the case? Then came the creepiest whisper of them all, the piles. People online started digging. Some claim Malcolm had stumbled onto something huge, names, files, dangerous receipts, and he wasn't just sitting on them, he was about to drop them. The theories spiraled. Some said it tied to celebrities, others swore politicians were involved, and a few believed it reached even higher, into the world of real power, elite networks, money and secrets nobody dares to touch. But here's the thing, Malcolm wasn't reckless, he was sharp, strategic, a man who didn't waste words, and if he saw something wrong, he wouldn't just sit on it, He'd move with purpose. He would have used it to make things right, no doubt about it. But some truths, they're too dangerous for certain people to let out. And some voices get shut down before they ever get the chance to speak. Because before Malcolm could drop a single word, he drowned, or at least that's what they said, a strong current, a split-second mistake. Now people are asking the hard question, was this really just an accident, or was it something more? And if it was something more, how far would someone go to stop him? Because this whole thing is starting to feel way too familiar. A beloved public figure gone in an instant, a sudden shocking death, a rushed farewell, conflicting stories, and threading through all of it. Money, power, and calculated silence. At this point, it's not just about Malcolm Jamal Warner, it's about what he might have known, what he was planning to share, and why that truth may have died with him. And through it all, Regina King has become something unexpected, whether she wanted it or not. She's the emotional anchor of this storm. Her pain, her poise, her silence. They mirror what the rest of us are feeling. That deep, gut-level certainty that something was stolen from us, that someone out there knows more than they're admitting. And until that silence breaks, the questions are only getting louder. What really happened on that beach? Why do the official reports clash with what witnesses saw? And why was the race to claim the money faster than the race to save his life? Why shut down an autopsy? And what exactly are the piles? And why are people scared to even say the name out loud? The world deserves answers. His daughter deserves answers. And if the truth really sank with him that day, then we owe it to Malcolm to keep digging until the tide turns and the silence cracks wide open. Because sometimes the most dangerous stories aren't the ones we tell. They're the ones we're not allowed to. And this one, it feels far from over. Sometimes the truth doesn't whisper, it screams. And ever since Malcolm Jamal Warner's death, the silence around it has been screaming louder and louder. We've grieved, we've questioned, we've replayed those final hours over and over, trying to make sense of something that makes none. But what if the real truth isn't in the water at all? What if it's hiding in the shadows? Too much just doesn't add up. A man laughing with his daughter in his last video, gone only hours later. A father, a protector, snatched in the blink of an eye. Some say he died a hero, saving his little girl. Others swear she was never even in the water, and through all of it, officials clung to their version of events, clean, polished, and just a little too convenient. Everything about this felt controlled, but that wasn't even the most disturbing part, because what nobody saw coming, what absolutely floored people, was what happened immediately after. Not even a full day had passed. The ink on Malcolm's death certificate wasn't even dry, and already the paperwork was flying. His wife, the woman who had just lost her husband, allegedly moved with a speed that didn't look like grief. It looked like strategy. Lawyers contacted, assets shifted, over $12 million in property and investments allegedly slid right under her name. No memorial, no press statement, not even a public tear, just silence and signatures. And when the internet started asking questions, that silence only got deeper. Mainstream media brushed past it. A short segment here, a headline there, and then nothing. No follow-ups, no deep dives, no exclusive sit-downs, just a quiet fade out for a man who once brought joy to millions, whose face lit up living rooms across America. But fans, they didn't forget, not for a second. They started digging, connecting dots, pulling at threads, and what they found sent chills through anyone paying attention. One word kept surfacing, the piles. At first, it sounded like background noise, a stray comment on Reddit, a whisper in an anonymous DM. But then, more started coming up. And when people cross-referenced Malcolm's old interviews, podcast appearances, and social media posts, a picture began to form. Turns out, he'd been warning us. Not loud, not direct, but in quiet, coded ways. In one podcast, he said, "Some stories never make it to the light." In another, he hinted at knowing things that keep you up at night. And in a now-deleted post, he wrote, "The truth may be buried, but it always remembers how to breathe." Then came the real bombshell, a leaked email, allegedly from Malcolm himself, sent to a trusted journalist friend. In it, he talked about a folder, not just any folder, encrypted, hidden, locked down tight. What was inside? Why was it protected like that? He called it the piles. And in that email, Malcolm admitted he was scared, said he didn't trust many people, said what he had uncovered had the power to shake the way the world sees some of the biggest names in entertainment. But it was one single line that flipped this entire story on its head. If anything happens to me, no, it wasn't an accident. Read that again. If anything happens to me, no, it wasn't an accident. From that moment, the drowning stopped looking like a tragedy and started smelling like a cover-up. The wife's alleged rush to lock down millions in assets didn't read like mourning anymore. It read like motive, like someone had something massive to lose if Malcolm ever spoke. And suddenly, all those loose ends didn't feel random. They looked like giant red flags. Why did the first police report contradict what witnesses saw? Why did officers back a version they weren't even there to witness? Why weren't lifeguards on a beach everyone knew was dangerous? Why were people allegedly told to keep quiet with the media? Why shut down the autopsy? Why the rush to cremate? And maybe the coldest move of all, why deny a grieving daughter the chance to say one final goodbye to her father? It's like someone wanted to wipe Malcolm out. Clean, quiet, surgical. Erase the man, erase the truth. But they forgot one thing. The internet never sleeps. People started posting, sharing, connecting dots. Videos went viral. Threads exploded. Folks who'd never even met Malcolm were in tears, angry, demanding answers. The silence didn't calm the storm. It made it roar louder. And right there, in the middle of that chaos, stood Regina King. Not as a woman scorned, but as someone who had already lost everything and still stood with unshakable grace. Her tribute was short, but it cut deep. And behind every word, you could feel it. She knew. Maybe she'll never say it out loud. Maybe she doesn't have to. The look in her eyes told the whole story. They had unfinished business, words left hanging, a history soaked in both love and pain. But above all, they had the truth. Now he's gone, and she might be the only one left holding the missing pieces. Or maybe she's just another shattered heart trying to make sense of a loss that never should have happened. Either way, her silence now carries weight, and every word she does speak feels like it's coming straight from the grave. But here's what chills people the most. What if the Piles is still out there? What if those files weren't destroyed, just hidden? And what if Malcolm saw this coming and left behind a trail, a coded path, waiting for someone brave enough to follow it? Only the right eyes could follow. Because if there's one thing we've learned, truth doesn't stay buried forever. Maybe the real reason for Malcolm's death hasn't surfaced yet. Maybe someone out there is watching, waiting, scared. Scared that one wrong move, one leaked email, one fearless reporter, or one relentless hacker could blow everything wide open. But truth doesn't care about your fear. It doesn't care about your lawyers, your millions, your sealed reports, and it definitely doesn't care about your silence. Truth rises, slowly, painfully, but it rises. Maybe one day we'll know what really happened. Maybe one day his daughter will grow up and demand the answer she's owed. Maybe one day Regina will speak her truth, raw, unfiltered, no holding back. And maybe one day the world will finally understand what the Piles really is. Not just a secret folder, not just encrypted files, but a weapon, a truth bomb, one Malcolm Jamal Warner may have died protecting. Until then, we remember, we honor, and we never stop asking, what really happened to Malcolm Jamal Warner? Because this didn't feel like an accident. It felt like a warning. And once you spot the cracks in the story, there's no unseeing them. So we keep watching, we keep digging, we keep listening, because the waves might have taken his body, but they didn't take his voice. Somewhere inside that silence, his truth is still speaking. Now it's your turn. Do you believe this was just a tragic accident or something much deeper? A man is gone, a father, a light, a voice, and all we're left with are conflicting stories, sealed reports, silenced witnesses, and a digital file no one dares to talk about. They want us to move on, to scroll past, to forget, but we won't, because if Malcolm Jamal Warner was silenced for what he knew, the worst thing we could do now is stay silent too. If this story made you feel something, hit like, drop a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that dig deeper than the headlines. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your ears tuned to the silence. See you in the next video.